this individual will not be returning to school during the investigation. Please be assured that we take all allegations very seriously, as the safety of our students and staff is always my top priority.
If you look at this cat's face, don't you think that this kitty in 2021 was trying to tell all of us that this guy is sus? That he or she knows things about him? This is 25-year-old Italo Brett Bonini. Does the name sound familiar to you? Well, there's two reasons for that. One, you would have watched the other videos I've made about him. But two, if you didn't, maybe the name rings a bell because he was Madeline Soto's choir teacher. Please note that this content is for adults only. Viewer discretion advised. If you haven't yet, hit the subscribe, like, and share. Now, he is not directly involved with the abuse of Madeline Soto. However, he faced similar charges. He enticed minors online. And I no longer have to say allegedly because he's pleaded guilty to it. And that's what we're going to look at today. This is a very difficult video to make. I've actually been putting it off for a while. Let me just see. This was published. This document came out on the 18th of April of 2025. Today is already the 2nd of May. Okay. So I've just been putting it aside because it's difficult to read through the things that he did. So just know that this obviously comes with a trigger warning. We are going to be discussing the modus operandi of a guy who entices minors online, and we are going to be discussing what he says to them. So it's got themes of sexual abuse, grooming, coercion, and things like that. Obviously, it's for educational purposes only and for adults only. The reason that I think it's important to talk about this is because you already know I make lots of videos on this topic. I think that this online world in 2025 is so freaking dangerous, especially for children, and they can have YouTube accounts, they can have Snapchat, they can have Instagram accounts, and all of that from when they're 13 years old. Sometimes parents even make them accounts when they're younger, not realizing what they need to educate their kids about. I don't think controlling the kids' social media is going to be effective because kids will find a way to do what they want to do anyway. As we'll see in this case, the kids quickly made a Discord account and they started talking to people, and then they ran into this guy online. And it's just absolutely horrifying to see how someone like this can chip away at these children, and even when they're feeling reluctant to do what he's telling them to do, they end up doing it. That's what's scary. And for me, who I naturally like to risk assess, right? For me, the risk is that a lot of kids, there's an increase of kids taking their own lives because they then get sextorted or they get shamed, or the predator, which is a sensitive word for YouTube. So please like and share if you think that this information will be useful for others to learn. Yeah, what they do then is they will put fear into the victim and say, I'm going to show your parents what you sent me. I'm going to tell your friends, all your friends at high school, what you've done, so that they can keep on controlling them. And sometimes the kids then are cornered and they feel so ashamed, so pressured, so scared, they have no one to talk to about it. That's how they feel, right? That they then take their own lives, and that is just absolutely heartbreaking. So I really want to provide this content so that we can all just get a glimpse, and it's only a glimpse, into how people like this operate online. So are we ready for that? Okay, buckle up. Let's discuss it.
According to a crime complaint, Italo Brett Bonini, a music teacher at Hunters Creek Middle School, has lived here with his parents for years. He's accused of enticing two boys in Maryland to expose themselves and engage in sex acts in front of the computer during video calls so he could watch.
Okay, so the document is 36 pages long, and I certainly don't want to bore you by reading every single page. I'll just quickly show you what the plea agreement is, and then we're going to get into the facts of the case where they list basically his MO, right? So the plea agreement for Italo Raphael Brett Bonini, he pled guilty to 2 counts. Okay, count 1, it said charges the defendant with enticement of a minor to engage in sexual activity, and count 2 charged him with the production of CSAM, which is a more appropriate phrase than the old phrase like that. CSAM stands for child sexual abuse material. And so the minimum and maximum penalties, in fact, if I just quickly summarize this, I made some notes over here. If you add this all up and, all these fines and things, he could face, he hasn't been sentenced yet, and it's a federal case, so I can't tell when exactly he'll be sentenced, but I'm sure it will be soon, right? So he will face a minimum of 15 years if concurrent sentences and 25 years if consecutive in prison, with a maximum of life plus 30 years. He faces lifelong supervised release, significant fines, restitution to the victims, forfeiture of assets, sex offender registration, and likely deportation as a non-US citizen. His actions targeting minors via Discord, including child victim 1 and 2, which we're going to get into. Child victim 1 was 8 years old. Child victim 2 was 5 years old. And at least 20 others, and I'm sure there's more because this guy would offer lessons. He was, remember, look, I'll show you this quickly. He was Madeline Soto's choir teacher, right? So he's a music teacher at Hunters Creek Middle School, and around that area offering private lessons. I just shudder to think what happened in some of those private lessons, right? You might recognize this picture of him as well. But so at least 20 others that they know of so far with what he was doing. As I said earlier, I think I said it, I'm glad that he pleaded guilty so that he can spare the families the absolute horrifying details and pictures and things of what he did. All right, so now we're going to skip to the facts of what happened.
I was a kid in this neighborhood. I was a kid that went to the middle school. So it's honestly scary to hear that there are some sus things going on.
So here we are on page 23 out of 36, United States of America versus Italo Brett Bonini, factual basis. Again, I'm going to remind you that this comes with a trigger warning. They are going to be discussing the modus operandi of a guy who enticed children online and the things that he asked them to do and the things that he would do to get them to do those things. Okay, so if that is too much for you or if it gets triggering or anything like that, just know we always save you a seat over here. You can come back anytime, whenever you are ready, or you could skip it altogether. If you are going to skip it altogether, if you wouldn't mind just liking, sharing, and maybe leaving a comment so that at least the algorithm knows, because this is already going to be like, YouTube's going to be like, yeah, we're not going to show this to many people. And I really want to share this for educational content, because the more we know about how they operate online, the better we can become at teaching children what the red flags are online. You know what I mean? Because the way they approach them in all these cases we study is actually so similar. So factual basis. On or about January 12th of 2025 in the Middle District of Florida and elsewhere, the defendant, using a facility and means of interstate commerce, did knowingly persuade, induce, entice, and coerce an individual who had not attained the age of 18 years to engage in sexual activity for which any person could be charged with a criminal offense, specifically the production of CSAM. On or about January 12th of 2025, in the Middle District of Florida and elsewhere, the defendant did employ, use, persuade, induce, entice, and coerce a minor to engage in any sexually explicit conduct for the purpose of producing a visual depiction of such conduct, knowing and having reason to know that such visual depiction would be transported and transmitted using any means and facility of interstate and foreign commerce, and the visual depiction was produced and transmitted using materials that had been mailed, shipped, and transported in, and affecting interstate and foreign commerce by any means, including by computer, and the visual depiction was actually transported and transmitted using any means and facility of interstate and foreign commerce. I think the first lesson to teach people about these online, and YouTube doesn't like this word, but it's for educational purposes, online predators, even if they target adults, right? Because that happens too. They always want you to send nudes, and then they usually use that against you. They instill fear, and they want more, and they offer things that the victim never even actually gets. And it's all just super humiliating, and they even would then share it, perhaps with a network of other people just like them. So I think the first conversation point when talking to anyone about this, especially like teens or children, would be don't take pictures of yourself naked. And it might sound so obvious, right? But like, don't do it, because you don't actually know who that person is and what their intention is with it. It can't be good. If they want digital photos of you naked, it can't be good intentions. That's not love. That's exploitation, right? Okay, so defendant's Discord accounts. Discord is a popular online communication platform. The defendant has 2 known Discord accounts. One of the defendant's Discord accounts had the username Adrian Bro, okay, which was registered to an email account belonging to the defendant A Sanchez 2021 gamer, and to the defendant's phone number. The user ID for Adrian Bro 2 #0 Discord account is: the defendant registered Adrian Bro 2 Discord account on September 3rd of 2024 at 10:38:08 UTC. That's very specific. Okay. The defendant registered the Adrian Bro Discord account using IP address, and the Discord account was last seen through another IP address. During an interview with the FBI, the defendant admitted to remembering his Adrian Bro Discord account and deleting it. The defendant also confirmed that the phone number associated with Adrian Bro 2 #0 Discord account belonged to him. So he admitted it to I wouldn't lie to the FBI. So you did the right thing there, bro. Right? Thank goodness. At least he did that, as I say. Now, let me just put this picture up here in case people join late or they just don't know who the heck I'm talking about. This is the guy I'm talking about, and I've linked the previous videos about him in the description box below, where we also re-listened to his police video interviews in Madeline Soto's case, and he's one of the guys that Jen Soto contacted directly to ask if Maddie had been to school that day. So in my opinion, he's pretty important in that orbit. I don't know if he ever shared any content with Stephan Sterns or not, or if there's any connection there. It doesn't seem to be, but with these types of guys, you just never know. So they said the defendant used his iMac desktop computer to create the Adrian Bro account, Discord account, have video calls with the victims through the internet, and send messages to the victims. So initial reports of sexual exploitation. On January 18th of 2025, a Maryland State Police trooper was dispatched to the report of a computer crime involving children. The Maryland State trooper arrived at the residence of child victim 1 and child victim 2 and made contact with the victim's father, so the 2 victims' father. The victim's father explained that child victim 1 made a Discord account on January 12th of 2025, while child victim 1 stayed with his grandparents in Maryland. On January 18th of 2025, the victim's father discovered messages between CV1 and the Discord account with the screen name A Sanchez 1020. The Maryland State Trooper obtained the username and user ID for the Discord account with the screen name A Sanchez 1020. Now, in previous videos, by the way, I've gone over some documents, and it might sound similar at first, but there's more details in this. Okay, so they go more into his MO. That's why I'm reading this. It's not to repeat information, it's to offer new insight and new information. On January 31st of 2025, another Maryland State Trooper authored a search warrant for the contents of the Discord account with the screen name A Sanchez 1020. The search warrant was judicially endorsed and served on Discord that same day. Discord responded to the search warrant on February 3rd of 2025. Discord provided user details of the account. The information shows that A Sanchez 1020 was screen name for the Adrian Bro 2 #0 account, which law enforcement traced back to the defendant. Discord also produced chat logs. They should put the word horrifying chat logs before that, because oh my goodness, for the Adrian Bro Discord account, including chats with child victim 1, who again was 8 years old, and their sibling 5, dating back to January 12th of 2025. So just again, think about that. Child victim 1 made the account at Granny and Grandpa's house. Maybe they were bored and thought, okay, let me make a Discord account and let me just do some gaming over here. And they made the account on January 12th. And already then, this guy was in the inbox. That's how quick it can happen. It's not months, it's not weeks, months, years. It could be seconds, hours, days at most. And somebody like this is in the inbox. Oh my goodness. Now, chats and call with child victim 1. On January 12th of 2025, the defendant initiated a chat with child victim 1 on Discord through the defendant's Adrian Bro Discord account. At the outset, the defendant identified himself as Adrian and falsely claimed that he was a 16-year-old from the state of Georgia. Freaking liar. Obviously, he has to pretend to also be, a child, a minor, 16 years old, but still, dude, you're talking to an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. A 16-year-old should also not be doing that, you know what I mean? So anyway, I think the lesson there is that people lie online about who they are, right? Look at this case. The defendant asked CV1 his age and told CV1 that he always asks so that he knows who he's talking to. CV1 responded that he was 8 years old. Later in the chat, CV1 provided his phone number to the defendant, which started with a Maryland area code. The defendant then told CV1 that he would reveal his face to CV1, not through a photo, which the defendant refused to send, but through a video call. The defendant told CV1 he was going to have his microphone muted during the call and asked the child victim 1 to also mute his microphone so that the defendant would not get caught. Yeah, but you're showing your face, but okay. The defendant then started a video call with child victim 1, who did not originally have his camera on. So remember, this guy was 24 years old at the time, he's 25 now, interacting with an 8-year-old and pretending to be 16. There is no recording of the video call, but the defendant and CV1 communicated on the video call by simultaneously messaging each other on Discord. The defendant asked child victim 1 if he could see CV1, to which CV1 stated that he was scared and didn't feel like it. After the defendant persisted, CV1 eventually went on camera. There you go. There's the coercive control, the push, 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 the grooming. And it's not subtle, very aggressive. Like, come on, man. I'm showing you my face on video. Now you show me yours. And so they push these children into a corner, even though the child said, I'm scared and I don't feel like it. Which is actually really brave of an 8-year-old to say, right? Just like, I don't know, man. The defendant then steered the topic of conversation towards inappropriate matters. So, like, as soon as this little boy goes on camera, then suddenly he gets all inappropriate immediately. They said the defendant informed CV1 that the defendant began the video call while in his underwear, and that now CV1 knows that the defendant wears blue boxers. The defendant then stood up to close the closet door behind him. Afterwards, the defendant asked child victim 1 for advice on whether the defendant should urinate on the tile floor in his room or in his boxers because he was too lazy to go to the bathroom. What a freaking weirdo. How disgusting. And it's actually a little bit, and I don't mean this as a compliment, I mean it of the worst kind, a little bit of a clever way to initiate a really strange conversation with a child by saying, do you think I should urinate on the floor? Or in my boxers? Because he's like upping the gross level so that whatever he asks for next might seem less gross. CV1 told the defendant that he wanted to keep it family friendly. Oh, shame, man. This poor child, this poor 8-year-old. Oh, man, shame. He was trying to use all these words. Like, I'm trying to keep this family friendly. After asking CV1 which position the defendant should use to urinate in his room and saying that he was going to do it, the defendant said that he stopped. But he asked CV1 if he should continue because he had more pee. I mean, just like I said about Stephan Sterns, I hope someone pees on this guy in jail. Gross, dude. My word. CV1 asked the defendant whether the defendant could turn off his camera or if CV1 could end the call. However, the call continued. So again, there it says the defendant said that he stopped, but asked CV1 if he should continue because he had more pee. And then the child victim asked the defendant whether the defendant could turn off his camera. He was not comfortable with that. Like, dude, could you turn off your camera or could we end this call? However, the call continued. So, more boundary violations. The defendant asked CV1 to go somewhere more private for the video call, somewhere without family. To lure CV1 away from his family, the defendant told CV1 that he would show CV1 a secret video. The defendant then told CV1 that he removed his boxers. CV1 turned off his camera several times, prompting the defendant to repeatedly ask CV1 to keep his camera on. I think it's so obvious, okay? This is like, some of you are going to be like, duh. But just teaching children how to say no is so important, okay? It's like, there's even little songs about it on YouTube. There's all sorts of books that you can buy children of how to set boundaries and how to say no. It's so important, you know, to just teach children those basics of, if you're feeling uncomfortable, you don't owe anyone anything. If you've set a boundary, then if the person continues to violate that, end the conversation. No questions asked. Especially if it's, oh my word, like someone older, huh? This guy pretending to be 16. Wow, I mean, he can't look 8, you know what I mean? Just look at this guy. Anyway, so, okay, breathe. It's really, doesn't make you uncomfortable too. It's really like, oh my word, it's just the worst. But I hope we can all learn from this. And I hope that you will share this with anyone else that you know that you think they could learn from this, or they could teach the children about these red flags and things like that. Oh my goodness. Okay, so just hold me back. The snark is happening. I'm just like, dumbass over here. This guy was like, oh, tickle my boxers. Child victim 1 turned off his camera several times, prompting the defendant to repeatedly ask, push to keep his camera on. Child victim 2, the 5-year-old, then appeared on camera. The defendant asked child victim 1 who child victim 2 was, and CV1 informed the defendant that CV2 was his 5-year-old brother. What did he do with that information? The defendant asked if he could meet CV2. The defendant commented that CV1 and CV2 looked similar. The defendant asked if the victims would like to see something secret. The defendant said he trusted both victims. Before showing the victims the secret thing, the defendant asked whether the victims played the game Roblox or Minecraft. And here we go. With now bribery, manipulation, just being like, so you like Roblox or Minecraft? When CV1 said he played both, the defendant asked CV1 if he wanted Robux, an in-game currency in the Roblox video game, and whether he preferred Robux or Minecoin, an in-game currency in the Minecraft video game. After confirming that both victims preferred Robux, the defendant asked if he could The defendant asked if he could ask for something in return. Oh, now we're making deals with kids. Now you're dangling a reward and saying, you can have this if you give me that. And they said a particular request. The defendant first offered to give CV1 and CV2 15,000 Robux each, which when I looked it up is about $187 worth of Robux each, which to kids would just be like, oh my word, you want to give us 15,000 Robux? And spoiler alert, he never gave them any of that. Yeah, we see cases like this often, right? We discuss cases like this often on this channel. There's a recent case that I discussed with you. If you missed it, go check it out. It's in the live stream replay section. And it was about a New York executive who had a whole bunch of fake cash and offered victims who were adult females, a whole bunch of money to do all sorts of things. And he gave them fake cash. So in this sense, he is just offering digital money like Robux, but not even giving it to these poor children. Like, holy crap, that's how he corners them and coerces them, right? The defendant asked CV1 to take CV2 with him to that more private spot so that CV1 and CV2 could get their Robux and Minecoin. Before providing CV1 and CV2 with his request, he returned to the topic of the secret thing that he wanted to show the victims earlier. Before showing it, the defendant asked where CV2 was and reiterated that CV2 could also watch the secret thing. The defendant told CV1 that the secret thing was specifically for boys and asked if CV1 could keep a secret. Ooh, that's dangerous. Tell kids, if anyone asks you to keep a secret, run. If any stranger, online or in real life, is asking you as a child for help or asking you to keep her secret, run. Literally run. Make noise and run. Distance and being loud are your friends. Yeah. Scream, run, call another adult, get help, right? Because, whoa. The defendant proceeded to show CV1 a 6-minute pornographic video. The defendant told CV1 that he should get CV2, like get your 5-year-old brother, so that CV2 could also see the video. CV1 told the defendant that CV2 would tell, to which the defendant retorted that CV2 would not if they offered CV2 Robux to keep him quiet. Holy crap. The defendant then asked CV1, the 8-year-old boy, if his penis was erect, because the video the defendant was showing CV1 was making the defendant's penis erect. The defendant told CV1 that his penis was big, like in the video, but that the defendant's had more hair. Great stuff that no 8-year-old ever wants to know, dude. The defendant asked if he could show his penis to CV1. The defendant told CV1 to look and then said, "Don't be shy, lol, show yours too, why not, LMAO," which is laughing my ass off. Yeah, this is not funny, dude. Yeah, wait till the other inmates find out what you did. Okay, so CV1 told the defendant that he was scared and would not show the defendant his penis. Again, trying to set those boundaries. The defendant persisted, asking CV1 several times to show the defendant his penis. CV1 continuously refused. And I mean, we all know what this feels like, right? When you say no again, and somebody just pushes. That persistence is not welcome. Okay, just end the conversation right then and there. Block. Don't be scared. You know, in the past, I used to struggle with boundary setting myself. And sometimes, you know, especially if you're an empath or you like super polite or you want to be kind to people, right? You're just like, what do I do in this situation? This is so awkward. Let me tell you, you just literally put the phone down. You end the call or you press block. Even if you fear, like, oh no, what will that do? What if they get angry? What's going to happen? What if they retaliate? I don't care. Block it and tell someone about it. Block and snark. Okay. So shame, man, this poor child. So continuously refused. The defendant then offered CV1 and CV2 25,000 Robux each. Oh no, the price is going up. Like, okay. I'll give you 25,000 each. That's 50,000 Robux to show their penises. Oh, he's getting real aggressive here. With an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old. CV1 agreed, but said the defendant had to subscribe to some of his family members' YouTube channels, which the defendant did. Shame. This poor child is like, okay, you know what? I mean, this is a horrifying situation. But I just, for a moment, want to take something out and just say a compliment for this child. He's actually trying very hard to set boundaries. He's pretty good at it, especially for age 8, right? And number 2, shame, like negotiation. He's good at negotiating. We're like, oh, okay, so you want to give us these 25,000 Robux? Well, then you're going to go there and you're going to show me that you're subscribing to my family members' YouTube channels. Shame. Once the defendant confirmed that CV2 was with CV1, the defendant instructed CV1 to lock the door of the room they were in. Run, block, end the call, stop the conversation, report, to do all those things, right? That's what to teach people. The following conversation, which comes with a trigger warning, then ensued, during which the defendant caused CV1 to display his genitals on camera. Defendant: okay, bros, listen up. Here's what I want you to do. Child victim 1: okay. Both of you pull your pants down together so your peepees are out. Then I'll tell you the next instruction. Okay. Make sure you stand on camera together, pantless or underwearless. So together, guys, listen carefully or I can't do it. CV1 says, did it? Defendant: nope, not how I asked. Or not how I asked both of you. Drop your pants all the way. CV1: okay. And stand on cam. Then I'll tell you the next step. Lower your pants all the way, boys. You're not listening. CV1 says, did. Defendant: you're not listening though. I'm telling you to do one way. CV1 says 3. You're ignoring. And CV1 says 2, 1, go. Defendant, both together. I can't see. Lower the cam. Okay, here's my next step. Okay, guys, stop. Here's my next step. Ready? Yes. Okay, lower your cams, and then I want you both to touch each other. You can read what's on screen there. Look, like you rub his, he rubs yours like this. And then, oh my word, this guy's gonna watch show that. No. Okay. The defendant says, okay, and CV1 says, okay. The defendant, but together, on cam, so I can see. Don't play around. No. CV1, okay. Defendant, you rub his, he rubs yours. CV1 says, I did do it. Defendant, all right, hold up. Let me get the code. Good job. And child victim 1 says, did it. In summary, CV1 lowered his pants and underwear to reveal his genitals for the defendant. CV2 lowered his pants but not his underwear for the defendant. However, the defendant continued to message CV1 for days after January 12th of 2025, but never sent any Robux. Just dangled it. Like, you'll get it at some point. But let's just continue this conversation. And that's another thing that they do. Right? Block, search warrant, and interview. We've got 4 pages left, okay? 3.5, really. On February 4th of 2025, the FBI executed a federal search warrant on the defendant's residence in Orlando, Florida. Concurrent with the execution of the search warrant, the FBI interviewed the defendant, who identified himself as a middle school music teacher who also taught private music lessons to children. Oh no. Oh no. During that interview, the defendant told the FBI that he was not attempting to solicit him and that he was not even gay. Before the agents mentioned the sex of any victim, the defendant admitted that he has done bad in the past, but only a few times for me.
When questioned, Bonini allegedly told investigators, quote, I fell into temptation. I am not a sick individual. I made a mistake.
The defendant elaborated that in regard to bad, he meant having inappropriate conversations with children. The defendant also admitted that he doesn't really game. The defendant's intention, and intent is important. The intention for joining Discord, an online communication platform popular amongst gamers, was to have conversations and have fun sexually. I think that's quite an empowering question to teach people as well, is, so what is your intention? Why are you on this platform? What do you want to get out of it? And then hear what they say. I mean, they could lie. But I mean, if they say, oh, I'm here to meet other gamers and to play games. Okay, what game do you want to play? Let's do that. Because someone with this intent will very quickly run from that, because that's not what they're there for. The defendant admitted to talking to children on Discord. I'm sure there were other apps as well, right? Additional victims. Electronic evidence from the defendant's Discord account shows that the defendant attempted to entice a number of other children in a similar way. Whereas CV1 and CV2 are the only victims that have been identified to date, evidence from the chats shows that the defendant victimized at least 20 other children. The defendant had chats with at least 20 individuals who identified themselves as children using his Adrian Bro Discord account. In each of these chats, the defendant attempted to have a video call with the children, made sexual innuendos, showed CSAM, or sorry, not CSAM, showed children pornography, like literally showed them straight up porn, asked children if they masturbated before, or told children he could teach them how to masturbate. I mean, what? The defendant approached each chat in a similar way. The defendant would connect with Discord users at random and initiate a private conversation with the user. Then the defendant would introduce himself as Adrian, a 16-year-old boy from Georgia. The defendant always asked the user their age and where they lived. The defendant continued speaking to the user if they identified themselves as younger than 14 years old. Many of the children told the defendant where they lived, ranging from across the United States to internationally. After the initial exchange of messages, the defendant would veer the conversation into more sexually suggestive topics, such as discussing his boxers and needing to urinate. That was his pickup line for children. Like, what the hell, bro? That whole sentence is just all wrong, but you know what I'm saying. He's just like, let me talk about my boxers and needing to pee. Ew. The defendant would also ask the children if they would like a face reveal. To avoid being caught by a parent or older relative of the child, the defendant would then ask the children to have a video call but with no microphone on. The defendant would tell children that he does not send pictures. Oh, he's got some boundaries. I don't send pictures, because he obviously thought he'll get caught if he sent pictures. So this was his little loophole, which probably worked for quite some time, you know. The defendant also asked the children to move somewhere private, somewhere where there were no adults. Once they got the children on a video call, the defendant would make further sexual advances. Because the defendant did not want audio from the call, the defendant communicated with the children by exchanging messages with them while on camera. The defendant would often ask the children if he could show them something secret that another friend had sent him. The secret thing that the defendant tried showing, and did show to many children, was pornography. The defendant would show the children pornography as a way to introduce the topic of sex and provide reference points for the children that the defendant could refer back to when talking of his own penis or the children's. From the messages exchanged with the children, it's evident that the defendant often exposed his penis to the children, masturbated on camera with children, showed himself defecating in his room. Yeah, if you made it to this part of the video, showed himself defecating in his room. Yeah, I just said those words. Showed himself trimming his pubic hair to the children, and even ejaculated while on camera. Yeah. The defendant would ask the children to show him their penises. If they did, the defendant would try to push the limit and see how much he could get the children to do sexually. The defendant would ask children to masturbate on camera, and for those who had never masturbated before, the defendant would provide a demonstration on himself so that the children would follow. When a child would mention having a minor sibling, the defendant would ask the children if they'd be willing to perform sexual acts with their sibling. Based on the chats, the defendant was able to convince one 10-year-old child to inappropriately touch the child's 6-month-old sister. The defendant also asked that 10-year-old to put his penis inside of his sister's mouth. When the child refused, the defendant sent purported excerpts from scientific articles. I'm going to get so mad now. About how that would be good for the child's 6-month-old sister. In other instances, the defendant would ask the child he was chatting with to show their sibling and try to get both children to expose themselves. Most children were reluctant, at least initially, to comply with the defendant's sexual wishes. To combat their reluctance, the defendant would ask some children if they played Minecraft or Roblox, and offer them in-game currency, but only if they complied with his sexual requests. The defendant would show, this is the last page, images of a PayPal account with money, and say that he was willing to purchase the in-game currency for the children after they performed the sexual acts for him. This enticement worked, as some children performed the sexual acts that the defendant requested. The defendant never sent the in-game currency that he promised them. The defendant would tell the children that they were his friends and reassure them that he trusted them. If after a few days he did not receive a response from the children, or they refused to have a video call, the defendant would threaten to stop being their friend. Oh my word. I just want to move this idiot off the screen here. Wow. If after a few days he did not receive a response from the children, or they refused to have a video call, the defendant would threaten to stop being their friend, block them on Discord, or delete his account. Wow. See, that's what one needs to do to these people first. Threaten to all of that. Block, threaten, report, tell on. So I'm going to tell my mom and dad. I'm telling the police. I'm calling 911 right now. That is unfortunately what one has to teach children these days because of what's happening online, and it is massive and worldwide. Okay, so it gets worse. The defendant would also call children racial expletives, curse at children, and even threaten to send pictures and videos the defendant claimed to have taken to, and here we go, I told you at the beginning. I told you this is what they do. And this is where I feel like it's high risk that children then end up taking their own life. Or they just cannot cope with this level of threat, humiliation, the fear, the everything. So you see, even threatened to send pictures and videos the defendant claimed to have taken to the children's parents and school should they not comply. Do these idiots all have a handbook that they read before the time? Like, this is what we're going to do. Ew. The above, this is why we need to talk about it. Okay, it's important because it is existing. It's happening right now. As you're watching this video, it's happening out there right now. Probably millions of children are being affected. So we need to start talking about it more, as we have been doing, and share it so that we can all be educated on what goes on. And this is just a glimpse, as I say. The above is merely, they say, a summary of some of the events, some of the persons involved, and other information relating to this case. It does not include, nor is it intended to include, all the events, persons involved, or other information relating to this case. So even the FBI is saying this is just a glimpse. It is terrifying to think what's going on online. I mean, recently we also saw a huge takedown of a CSAM network of people, with the main dude in Turkey and many in Florida. And what they were doing was sharing links to CSAM on TikTok through direct messages. And they were approaching children on TikTok. If you didn't see that, I'll link that below for you as well. Okay, so we made it through the document. We made it through this very difficult topic. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. I mean, as I say, I've been putting this off for quite some time because I really find it difficult, but very important to talk about. And I will continue to do so. I'm sure that you've seen many times, if you've been here for a while, that I've brought up these types of topics. I just think it's so important. We need to protect the children, right? They're the future adults of society. We need to protect children. They are so vulnerable, especially online. And I just think parents don't even think, you know how we say sometimes, all of us, right? Most of you that are here, you watch true crime, right? But then there's so many other people who don't. And like, we know things that other people might never even consider as a possibility. See, that's the case, and that's a problem because children are so vulnerable and they're all so busy online and they're all dancing on TikTok and they're trying to, connect and make friends. And meanwhile, it's just an absolute horror show. I would say majority of the time it's absolutely horrifying, terrifying. Their DMs would be just a nightmare to actually look at. But as I say, if one were to aggressively try to control the children, like as in trying to discipline them and say, you can't do this and you can't have social media, they'll find a way. They'll get a burner phone, they'll get a friend's phone, they'll find a way. And that's why I think education on the matter is the solution, that you need to love yourself, respect yourself, never let anyone push you into this corner. This is what can happen. There's millions of cases all over the world where this is happening. Don't be a statistic. Don't do that to yourself. You never know where these images are going to be shared and with who and what, or what they're going to threaten to do with them. If they're ever even going to follow through with those threats, I don't know. Sometimes they might, right? So I just think there's so many lessons in here. I look forward to reading the comment section because many times after a video like this, you guys leave some really great safety tips or advice or, maybe experiences that you had, things that happened that you noticed, you saw something, you said something. And yeah, please, if you see something, say something, call the police immediately. You might actually save a lot of children from that type of abuse. I think this dad was amazing to be like, whoa, holy crap, look at this. Okay, that's it, I'm calling the police. I think that was really great. He did the right thing instead of just being like shouting at the kid or like, what were you thinking? Or like, why are you talking to this person like that? Because some parents might do that, right? No, immediately call the police because it's a giant problem and it could be just the tip of the iceberg to a giant network of disgusting people. So thankfully, as I said, Italo Brett Bonini pleaded guilty. Yeah. And so when I know when he was sentenced, it's a federal case. As I said earlier, I can't see the date right now of when he'll be sentenced, but When I know, I'll put a pinned comment or give you an update. Make sure you follow my YouTube shorts or check out my community post as well, because sometimes I update you there as well. And in the meantime, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.